In the Book of Mormon, there is a historical record spanning 20 chapters that contains an account of the wars between the Nephites and the Lamanites, starting in the 18th year of the reign of the judges. This section of the Sacred Latter-day Saint record has lovingly been nicknamed the War Chapters. Massive battles, brilliant strategies, and leaders that shaped entire nations. And today we're covering everything in 10 minutes or less. Let's get into it.
So, war breaks out between the Nephites and the Lamanites, as it does. Enter Captain Moroni. He's 25 years old, and already he's running the army. The Lamanites try to invade, but Moroni outplays them with strategy, surrounds them, and basically says, "Hey, we don't want to unalive you, but we will if you don't surrender." They fight, the Nephites win, surviving Lamanites surrender, and thus begins the war arc. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, Alma drops a prophecy that the Nephites will eventually stop believing in Christ and destroy themselves. He curses the land so any nation who dwells on it in wickedness will be swept off, then immediately disappears forever. No explanation, he's just gone. And right on cue, the Nephites start arguing. Some want freedom. The rest of them are like, nah, we got this guy named Amalickiah, and we're gonna make him king and destroy the church. Moroni responds by raising the title of liberty, which is basically a battle flag for faith, family, and freedom. Civil war is avoided when the kingmen dip in order to escape Moroni's complete aura. 4 years go by, and then Amalickiah starts moving like there's no tomorrow. To make it short, this guy joins the Lamanites, gets put in charge of an army, goes AWOL with the army, joins another army, poisons the leader of said other army, and becomes the super leader of 2 armies. He returns with the super army and assassinates the Lamanite king, lies about it, then marries the queen, effectively becoming king of the Lamanites. And naturally, he immediately declares war. In contrast to all this villainy, Moroni gets a sick monologue dedicated to him. "And Moroni was a strong and mighty man. He was a man of perfect understanding, yea, a man that did not delight in bloodshed, a man whose soul did joy in the liberty and freedom of his country and his brethren from bondage and slavery." What a legend. The next 5 years records a series of battles between the Nephites and the Lamanites. The Lamanites fail a couple of times to take a couple of cities. Nephites build more cities, and there's a period of peace and prosperity. Also, a guy named Morianton tries to start his own rebellion after instigating a civil dispute over land, but was shut down instantly by Teancum. Meanwhile, the God-fearing and righteous Nephite chief judge, Nephihah, died. His son Pehorin filled his seat. Because absolutely nobody learned from the previous events, some Nephites began to rise up because they wanted to establish, guess what, a king. While the Nephites are arguing, Amalickiah, that guy, launches another invasion and begins capturing Nephite cities. But the Nephites are so heated that the kingmen refuse to fight even when the enemy is knocking on their gates. Unfortunately, this internal Nephite civil conflict allows the Lamanites to easily capture several cities, including Moroni, Nephihah, Lehi, Morianton, Omner, Gid, and Mulek, all of which were on the east shore. Moroni gets fed up and basically says, "Either help us defend the country, or you're the problem." At the same time, Teancum and his army were engaged in a battle, who proceeded to, quote, harass them, speaking of the Lamanites, insomuch that they did slay them even until it was dark. The record shows that Teancum and his army were nothing short of SEAL Team 6, but the action scene isn't over yet. Because bro decided he was playing a Black Ops stealth mission, that night Teancum snuck in and single-handedly ended Amalickiah's career and snuck back completely undetected. Oh yeah, and across the map, the Nephite pacifists, the anti-Nephi Lehites, have Helaman begin raising their sons to be great warriors. The stripling warriors. More on that later. The war continued under Amalickiah's brother, Ammoron. The Lamanites retreat back to Mulek, and it's pretty much a stalemate until Moroni and his commanders bait their armies out of cities and then vulture in to claim the unprotected stronghold. A lot of prisoners are taken in the process, leading to this next bit.
"Hey Moroni, it's Ammoron. Wanna exchange prisoners?" "Sure. By the way, God is great and you guys are going down. Don't test me." "Bro, what? You guys literally killed my brother. Surrender now and I can call this whole thing off." "You know what? Just because of that, I'm no longer trading with you.
Moroni develops a strategy to flip the entire situation without a fight. Moroni and his men are able to sneak in and arm all of the prisoners being held captive. Through psychological warfare, the Lamanites surrender. Sun Tzu would be proud. Now, back to the stripling warriors. Ready for deployment, their first mission was to lure the Lamanites into pursuit so the Nephite commander Antipas and his men could follow from the rear. But their march took a 180-degree turn when they turned around to help fight. Haha, that was a joke. These boys, who had never before seen battle, were the reason why the Lamanites were defeated that day. Many of them were wounded, but miraculously, none were killed. Now, despite this victory, at this time, Helaman and Moroni began to take note of the complete lack of support that they were receiving from their government. But these Christian soldiers would soldier on, and soldier on they did, continuing to fight in brutal campaigns, defeating the odds and death at every encounter, and reclaiming the city of Manti. Speaking of the stripling warriors, Helaman said, quote, "Yea, and they did obey and observe to perform every word of command with exactness. Yea, and even according to their faith, it was done unto them." However, when Moroni watches the city of Nephihah fall, it spurred him to write an absolutely unhinged letter to the chief judge Pehoran. It went something like this.
Dude, are you lazy, corrupt, or traitors? Pick one. I'm finna pull up if you don't start helping.
Pehoran receives this letter and replies in complete soberness, telling Moroni about a rebellion led by a man named Pachus and how he had been driven out of the capital Zarahemla. The government had in fact been corrupted as the kingmen had taken control and gotten into cahoots with the Lamanites. He then asks for Moroni's help in reclaiming the capital. Moroni is relieved to hear that not everyone in his government had been corrupted and immediately joins forces with Pehoran to reclaim Zarahemla. During this whole campaign, Teancum is still playing Black Ops and sneaks into the Lamanite camp to unalive Amaron, but he gets the mission failed screen after an unsuccessful escape attempt. After this mutual expensive loss for both sides, the Nephites eventually drive the Lamanites out of their land. After such a prolonged period of violence and destruction, quote, "Many were softened because of their afflictions, insomuch that they did humble themselves before God, even in the depths of humility," end quote. Finally, Helaman was able to lay down his spear and returned to his duties of the church. And Captain Moroni, it is recorded, returned to the land of Zarahemla, yielding up the command of his armies to his son Moroni-ha, retiring to his own house, that he might spend the remainder of his days in peace. And that he does. And lastly, Alma chapter 63. This chapter mainly functions as a bridge to close the war chapters and transition into the Book of Helaman, which would record some key events prior to the coming of Christ in the Americas. But that'll have to be a video for another day. Overall, the war chapters are, least to say, very interesting, telling tales of destruction and prosperity, war and peace, pride and humility. There's a common pattern woven throughout it all. Righteousness leads to prosperity, while pride leads to division, and division leads to destruction, over and over again. Although these chapters are often considered incongruent with the rest of the Book of Mormon, stabby as opposed to the sermons and theological anecdotes, the war chapters still contribute significance to the overall work because of their deeply rooted depictions of the results of both wickedness and righteousness. But that's all for today. Till next time, stay awesome.